Welcome to our series finale. This is the final instalment of our OTM Outreach series. We recorded the live webinar on Friday the 29th of May and we brought back a mega lineup of our past panellists. My name is Amy Ward and I hope you enjoy the insight summary and live Q&A that we're presenting over the next hour. Make sure you've connected with us via email or social media so that when we're ready we can send you a copy of the series report. Thanks and enjoy.
Wonderful. All right, I might just do a very, very quick restart here. My name's Amy Ward and I'm with OTM. We were broadcasting live to Facebook and user error. I hadn't hit broadcast live to Zoom, which is actually the platform we're running the webinar on. So here we are. This is the series finale in our OTM Outreach series. And today we have welcomed back nearly all of our past panelists have been able to join us again. So it's going to be a fantastic lineup today. What we're going to do in the session today, and somehow we're going to fit this all into 1 hour, is we're going to do a recap of the top questions and insights, I guess, that have come in throughout the series with all of the questions that have been submitted from our community and all the amazing conversations we've had each Friday with our guest panelists. I was just saying before we did the restart that for me personally, it's been an amazing experience. We have had access to so many really good insights from the people across our community who are in all sorts of different roles and different organisations. So the learnings have been fantastic and it's really made it apparent, again, the value in collaborating. Nobody knows everything. Even when you're an expert in your field, there is more that can be learned, and it really, really does help to have conversations with your peers and to share ideas and insights. With the panel who have been able to rejoin us today, we're going to run a rapid fire panel conversation. We're going to do a live audience Q&A as well, and we've also had some questions pre-submitted from our audience. And we've also got something fun in store for you today. So the lovely Jo Hassan has joined us as well today, and she's going to do something, a little hot pink minute for us towards the end of today's session. And then we have a shout out for a few local businesses that we're supporting. So without further ado, these are our amazing panelists who have joined us over the past 10 weeks, and also on the panel today, who hasn't been on a previous panel but has been a very loyal and wonderful contributor to these sessions, is Nithi Supaya. So Nithi, if you're there, you can wave and say hi if people can see you. She's also joining us today in this session. So in prepping for today's oopsie, I've lost it again. Here we go. All right. So as I said, in prepping for today's session, I looked through, and the team looked through everything that had come in, and it was quite difficult actually to come up with just 10 things over the 10 weeks. I thought it might be as simple as saying, let's pick the best thing that came out of each week, but there were just so many best things that came out of each week. So this was our attempt at rolling up, I guess, everything that came in. What really became apparent, no matter who it was that we were speaking to, is that people matter. And right from the very earliest calls webinars that we did, where in the early days we had a focus on internal communications, right through to the ones where we were talking about digital and content and agile and leadership and customers and experience, it all came back to people and making sure that you're putting your people at the forefront. And so that's your staff, that's your teams, that's your partners, your customers, keeping in mind their emotions, the whole person, the state that they may be in, the circumstances that they may be in, and making sure that you're taking that into account with everything that you do, either as a marketer or a business leader, or in your own, in your own perhaps business or consultancies. Finances matter. People matter, and emotions matter, and doing the right thing by everybody in your community matters. So do your finances. You need to move quickly to make sure you have a really good view of where your money is being spent in your business. The things that you thought you were going to be spending on, you needed to look at very quickly, and those who have perhaps been more successful during all of this, I might just see if I can mute everybody on the session. I might just get all the panelists, if they don't mind, just to mute themselves for this session. Thanks. So finances matter. So it was really, really important that people looked at where they were spending money, stopped spending on money on things that they didn't need to straight away, and looked at where they could conserve their budget for what's going to happen over this past 3 months and perhaps over the next 3, 6, 12 months. C-suite relationships matter. Make sure as the marketing leaders and brand leaders in your organisation that you are aligned with your peers, that you're talking to your CEOs, you're talking to your CFOs, that you have a symbiotic relationship with your Chief Technology Officer or CIO or Chief Digital Officer. As a leadership team, you must be aligned, and the marketing groups must be part of that leadership group. And you must have the relationships with your peers across the organisation. Customer needs matter. This came out time and again. It's really important right now to be talking to your customers, finding out what matters to them. Don't just keep going on what matters to you as an individual or an organisation, but work out what matters to them and what might have changed in their world so that you can respond accordingly and really provide the most value to them. Strategy and plans matter. This shouldn't seem like rocket science, but those of us who had solid strategies in place were probably in a very good position to then do the planning that we needed to do to pivot and to change in this time. You might have had to change parts of your strategy or parts of your plan, but those who had those strategies and plans in place were probably in a better position to move forward and to pivot than those who didn't. Equally, flexibility matters. Being able to be agile, being able to change and move and pivot was super, super important. So the 10 items on the right-hand side of your screen, or my screen here, that I rolled up. Reflect on your purpose and vision. And this came out very early on, and I think I can remember some conversations with Wynne and Dave where this was really important to you guys in your businesses, and it's come out in other conversations since. It was a great time to reflect on your purpose and vision as an organisation and make sure you're doing the things that you should be doing. Be agile. Allow a culture of adventure. And I think, Warwick, that was actually your term. I've been using it a lot recently, but that culture of adventure and allowing your teams to experiment and to fail at times, but to try new things. And I know a lot of all of you on the call here have tried that in different ways. And anyone I've spoken to who's been able to, I guess, try new things and be more experimental during this time has actually been able to see more success with their client base and with their engagement. That alignment with your C-suite peers that I was talking about, super, super important. Being a leader. This is your time to step up, no matter what your role is in your organisation. Be a leader, come up with ideas, think about what matters to your stakeholders or to your customers or to your employees. The fifth one here, establish and maintain trust. And this came out in a few different ways. Really important to identify who your key spokespeople are within your organisation. Make sure that your leaders or the right people in your organisation are talking to your customers, to your employees, to anyone else who is a stakeholder in your organisation or your brand, and establish and maintain that trust. Collaborate and partner. And this came out a few times, and I know, Carla, you talked a lot about some of the successes you've had at Churches of Christ with the collaboration and partnerships that you've been able to really fast track during this time that have helped with service delivery and have helped with working with your clients and working with your employees, and that's come out in lots of other conversations as well. Have a strategy, but plan and pivot, as I was saying before. Stay informed and be curious. And as you know, those of us who are marketers in this session, or anyone who is market facing or customer facing, you're in not a unique, but you're in a very valuable position within your organisation, because you should have the insights into what's going on in your market at a broader sense, as well as at a one-to-one sense with customers. So stay informed and share those insights across your organisation, and be curious, ask questions, talk to people, find out what's going on, find out what's going on in other industries or in partner organisations. Number 9 here, value-driven communications. We got asked the question time and again over the last few months, what should I be saying? How do I cut through with my content? Should I be doing marketing? And I spent the whole day yesterday on a virtual event, the B2B Marketing Summit, and that came out a lot in that summit as well, with all the B2B marketers going, well, how do I cut through with my content? The way you cut through is by saying things that are useful to your audience base, and that should happen all the time, but particularly in a time like this. So value-driven communications, do things that are useful, do things that are needed, and if you don't have anything that's useful and needed, maybe it is okay to be a little bit quiet for a short period of time. And information management came out, and this came out particularly in our conversation last week, where we were talking with Clarissa and some of the other folks from industry associations, where you've got a broad mix of stakeholders and you're representing a group. But this is relevant for anybody, regardless of industry, and that's information management. Have a central point where your staff or your customers or your members can go for information, and make sure that that information is up to date. It's from trusted sources, and it's consistent, so that people can trust that they're getting the right information from you. So I'm going to breathe for a second. There were a lot of points, and there were so many other things that we could have put in here, but we had to keep it succinct for you. We will actually share a lot more detail of this on our other platforms after the session today, but I'd now like to jump to, and hopefully my slides will work here. I would like to jump to our conversation with our panel, who I know are waiting here on the line, so I'll stop sharing the screen shortly. But in prepping for this call, just as context for all of you, we actually asked our panelists to think about these 2 questions so that we could have this conversation today. So we've asked everyone to think about what has been their most important insight or learning over the last 3 months, and then what will be their top area of focus in the next 3 to 6 months. Now, with the time we've got, we probably can't get every panelist to answer every single one of those questions, but I will just stop my share now. Yay, I can see you all again. Awesome, look at that. Oh, Noelle, you'll be pleased. We now have an even number of panelists. We have 1, 2, 3, we have 20 people on as panelists. So I hope everyone can see this gorgeous Brady Bunch picture here. So let's kick this off. I'm actually going to jump to, and none of the panelists know who's going first, so it's a surprise. I'm going to jump to you, Mish. Where are you, Mish? There you are. Excellent. So Mish Burkett, who joins us from Communify, what has been your most important learning from the last 3 months?
I think that, that connection matters. So whatever channels we're using or however we're reaching out to people, we've very quickly went from, lots and lots of face-to-face to getting on the phones and just being with people and staying connected digitally with lots of audiences. So yeah, connection internally too. I think it was really important that we, internally daily team meetings, just to catch up and just to reassure one another we're all on the same page, we're all facing the same challenges, and, to check in, and that was really, really important.
Yeah. Fantastic, thank you. Jess, I'm going to jump to you next to also answer the same question. Jess joined us last week from the Royal Australian College of General Practitioners, and you've had an amazing I keep using that word amazing, but it just has been what you've done in the last 3 months, as you said, was about probably a year's worth of work normally.
Yeah, it has been very busy, and this insight is not, like, we would all say this in any given year, but particularly over the last 3 months, it's been really clear to me that a lack of processes, alignment to strategy and systems really puts unnecessary pressure on people.
Yeah, it's so true. And so when you've got those processes in place, it's times like this when they really come to the fore. And same with, if you've got your strategy and you've got your plans, but yeah, process and systems. So did you feel like you did have those things in place? Or
No. God, no. Look, I have an amazing team and they have done the best they can. And we've got really great processes in some area, but really crap processes in other areas. And we are not always aligned to strategy. So if anything, this is just the wake up call for our team that we need to be on point. And my next 3 to 6 months will be sharpening those processes, systems, and alignment to strategy so that if we do have another pandemic wave and we are still out of the office, and it looks like for us, we'll be out of the office till September. If that's the case, that we know what our path ahead is.
Wow. Yeah, great. Thank you. I'm going to jump to you, Hayley, for that same question. What's been your most important learning over the last 3 months? Where's Hayley? There she is.
Hey.
Hayley joins us from Q Super.
I think for us has definitely been understanding what people are searching for. So being in Q Super as financial services, it's, superannuation, it's a really tough time for a lot of people, and knowing what people are searching for and being able to act quickly and deliver that content and information where they're looking for it has been the biggest learning. It's something we've always done before, but I guess the speed that we've been able to do it in the last 3 months has been, really important.
Yeah, great. And how I know you shared some of this on the session that we did have with you and Izzy, but how do you find, or did you find out what it was that users were searching for, that people wanted out of your organisation?
Yeah, so, we have a search functionality through our website, so we can see what people are searching for on our website. And then we use tools such as like SEMrush and Google Analytics and Google Trends to sort of see what people in the wider industry, people in Australia are searching for when it's pertaining to superannuation finances. And where we can provide that helpful information, that's where we get in and provide that.
Fantastic. Thanks, Hayley. Zoe, I'm going to turn the tables on you. You made me laugh when I saw your initial answer to this question. Zoe Pashley is director with Jackson Talent Management and works with a lot of clients. You do a lot of their, I guess, human resources and recruitment consulting. And so you're working a lot with people in organisations. So what's been your most important learning in the past 3 months?
Well, I guess I'm going to have to kind of quote for those who like B movies, Zombieland, rule number 32, which is enjoy the little things. So I think, we all go at such a hectic pace and you've got a million things going on, and both in work and also for me, a lot of travel as well. And all of a sudden that's come to a bit of a grinding halt. So it was really just taking a bit of pleasure in, going for the daily walk with the dog, and also, when you have delivered something successfully for a client, really kind of reflecting on that as well. So yeah, enjoy the little things was my learning. Yeah,
great. Thanks, Zoe. Sorry about my phone going there. All the things you're not supposed to do as the host of an online session. Anyhow, Flo Lamens was one of our past panelists. He unfortunately couldn't join us here today, but I asked Flo this question, and he said that his biggest learning, and he's with QUT, so you can imagine they've had, and he runs all their social media for QUT, so a massive portfolio, and they've been hit on all fronts in how they've got to communicate and change their programs and whatnot over the last 3 months. So his answer was that you could never have planned for such a scenario ever, as far as he was in his experience. So this has been a massive learning for him. But Lynn, if I could jump to you, because we've talked a little bit about this planning and strategy side of things. So what was your biggest insight out of this in that regard?
Certainly for Business Women Australia and for my Hawkins marketing clients, we had a long-term strategic vision to ensure that we were using digital technologies, digitising, using like remote project management tools like Asana. We were already on that pathway. So within 2 weeks, I think we brought forward across all my clients and all the organisations I'm shareholders in, long-term plans, bringing them into sort of crunching them up into sort of 3 weeks. It was around the clock. It was really busy. It was a crazy time, and that really highlighted for me the importance of having digital in your strategy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And in your operations. We were, in terms of processes and systems, we already had those digital processes. We were doing webinars online. We were using Zoom prior to COVID. We were using the Asana tools for project management. We were using SEO and embracing technologies across Google, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. So it just brought it all to the fore, and as a result, while our revenue across most of my business sectors has been down about 20%, we've managed to really hold on. But what we've seen is incredible opportunities that have come out of this that we're really ready to experiment in.
Thanks, Lynn. Louisa and Wynne, I think the answers that you gave me to this question about what's been most important learnings or insights over the last 3 months were a little similar. Louisa, you talked about having time to think and review your activities. Can you just expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I guess I've had a bit of reflecting time over this period. As I mentioned, well, actually before we went live, probably my business Interactive Minds has come from a background of running events. So obviously that's something we can't do. We also do other things for our members. We run training programs and the like online, but I'm always thinking of how we can continue to evolve and best serve our market. And so it's given me a bit of thinking time when we don't have events to think about what we do next.
Yeah, great. And when you said something a little similar, but when we were in our session with you and also with Dave Norris, who's on the line as well, you were talking about it was a great time to reflect, but also a time to really look into your purpose and vision as an organisation. So what now, 3 months later, do you think of as your biggest learning or insight in this time?
Well, I think it's been very interesting because we opened, as you know, Amy, we opened a new physical studio space open to the public 2 weeks before we had to close down again. And I think we were all in that sort of emotional stage of, wow, this is fantastic. We're going to be open to the public. Everyone will be able to come to us. And as a studio gallery, we I think we're all encompassing, who we can bring everyone in and we can do everything for all men or women sort of thing. But as it's turned out, this period has really helped us focus on who that true demographic. I mean, I've been exposed to market segmentation many times over a long time, but to think about it in respect of just such a personal business aspect as your own studio, and who are we going to welcome through the doors, and where do we want to focus, has been really the best learning I think that we've come across. So that's been a really valuable time.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you,
Amy. Can I just add to that for a moment, that I think something that I've realised over this time as well is that it's okay not to make any massive decisions right now. That's been something that I've kind of sat with for a little bit as well, because I think the impulse is, I've got to change something, I've got to do it differently. But I've also then done a full circle and said, no, actually, I can just wait this out and think of all these options, but it's okay not to have to rush to implement something, and just to feel our way a little bit too.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point, because I've noticed myself and with some of the clients that we're dealing with, the mood is changing and people are starting to think, okay, what's next? There's a risk that there will be a little bit of anxiety start to creep in, that, oh goodness, am I ready? Are the competitors going to get ahead of me? Should I have been doing things differently over the last 3 months? And I think that's a really good thing to remind yourselves of, that, cut a bit of slack. No one's been in this situation before. Yes, some organisations will come out of this period in a better position than others, but it's 3 to 6 months. It's not a lifetime. There's time to get things right and to keep moving. Thanks, Louisa. We have heaps and heaps of other great learnings from people, but I do want to turn to the question of what will be our focus areas for the next 3 to 6 months. And Carla, I'm going to jump to you here. Carla Scott's in charge of business transformation and innovation with Churches of Christ in Queensland, which is one of our largest community service providers, aged care, housing, foster care, a very large range of services. And you have a massive team of people across the state. I mentioned earlier that one of the things you had cited as being an amazing learning or point of success for you guys in this period was your collaboration and partnerships. What about looking forward? What do you think your focus is going to be in, say, the next 3 to 6 months?
So I guess we're really focused, as everyone is, on the recovery and what that pathway looks like for us. And the process that we're stepping through at the moment is sort of revisiting all of our operational planning activities that we developed to align to our 5-year corporate strategic plan, and seeing which ones of those are still valid. So the interesting things for us are what are the things that we stopped during COVID because we didn't need to do them anymore, and if we didn't need to do them, then do we need to restart them now? So there's a bit of work going on in that space. There's also some assessment around, I guess, the risk profile a little bit of the organisation as well. Like, we've been able to make some really fast decisions. We've been able to shortcut some of the processes around decision making. Do we now revert back to old decision making processes, or is there a middle ground somewhere, some learnings that we can bring with us now so that we can actually get a little bit more speed and action in the things that we do? And then for me in particular, because business transformation and innovation are the areas where I'm across in the organisation, some of the, I guess, the positive side of COVID, in the spirit of always finding the upside in things, is that we've been able to put in place some real gold. We've found some real gold in some of the processes and the innovations that we've implemented, and we've done them quickly in collaboration with external partners and with internal partners in order to respond to a particularly unusual situation. But they are pieces of gold that we'll carry through with us that are going to make revenue differences, that will make differences to service delivery or make differences to our clients. And we may not have got to those for a long time, if ever, because they may not have had the priority put around them that they have done in this particular circumstance. So that's been really exciting for us, I guess, in terms of transformation.
Fantastic. And what about the ways of working? Because, I think just about everyone on this call here would have been able to work from home. Have you had a large portion of your staff working from home, and will that continue into the future?
So I guess being sort of split between two functions in an organisation like Churches of Christ, you have a massive service delivery and client delivery a business front. So all of our care workers, all of our frontline workers have all obviously still been doing what they do out in the community. And then we have the support staff, which is where I sit as well, which is and there's around about 400 to 500 of us, I guess, in terms of support staff. Most of us have been working from home. I can't talk for other teams, but for my team, the functions that sit within my team are business intelligence, the project management office. I've got the web and digital channel team. So all very tech savvy, all very used to working on systems. Their response to the planning for returning into the office has been, we're happy to stay at home for as long as possible to allow space for other teams that might need to work together. And they're perfectly capable of doing that. Some of the really great stuff that's come out in terms of my team and their feedback around working from home, and the reason why I'm really willing to support them to do that for as long as possible, is they found it so much easier to get a bit of a work-life balance. They found it much easier to safeguard and look after their own physical and mental well-being. They found it easier to work in an environment where they are delivering to output, where their success is measured on the things that they produce, as opposed to their success being measured by the time that their bottom is actually attached to an office chair. So they're loving all of that stuff. And we use a lot of tools in my team to collaborate. We use Trello, we use Asana, we use Skype and Zoom and phones, and we have stand-ups most days, and we have a catch-up and a wrap down at the end of each week. So we're constantly in each other's spaces anyway.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us, I know I've noticed it, and many of you have said to me that you're actually sometimes feeling more connected with your teams or even with your customers at this time, because it's been perhaps easier to get things into people's calendars, and we're doing so much more of this online communication, which maybe in some cases is becoming a bit overwhelming, but for the most part it's actually a really positive thing that we are so much more connected. Warwick, I'd like to turn to you for this question about where your focus is going to be. So Warwick Sweeney's the CTO and a national practice manager with Integral Technology Solutions, which is a mid-sized, very good tech services firm based here in Brisbane. So you have a sizable organisation of your own that you're looking after, but you're also working with some really large brands around Australia. So it'd be really interesting to get your perspective from the Integral point of view, but also maybe from what you're seeing with your clients.
Yeah, sure. In many ways, my answer is similar to Carla's. The thing for me is that, just to flip it from negative to positive, there has been a heap of positives come out of this for us and for some of our clients. And like Carla said, they all revolve around things like increased communication. Believe it or not, we've found it easier and healthier, our communication in this time, which is maybe not surprising, but that was a positive outcome. Increased engagement with our customers also happened, increased balance, as Carla said, increased productivity across the team. So all those are positive things. And our team was very much a remote distributed team anyway. So we were already set up to work that way. And so the real positive thing that enabled a lot of that to work better was that customers changed their perceptions around how we should collaborate with them. So even though we were able to do it, technically able to do it and did it quite comfortably previously, a lot of the barriers to doing it well with customers dropped down. So, you know, they're more than happy to jump on a Skype or a Zoom session, whereas previously they'd rather have a face-to-face. So all of those things are positive. And our focus for the next quarter or so will be actually bedding in a lot of those things into the way we work and helping our customers bed them in. So just really exploring the opportunities that have come out of it and making sure we make the most of it rather than just flopping back to the way we used to do things. And we need to be intentional about that, because otherwise we will just flop back to the way we're doing things. So.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Warwick. I'm just looking at the time here. I quickly want to flick to you, Isabel. Is this with News Corp? And you said that the rate of content production and the way your teams are working just accelerated exponentially over the last few months. So what's something that you would like to take with you into the next phase?
I think we really hope that, you know, obviously we maintain that speed and keep, you know, the communication channels happening. And I think just take a learning from the whole COVID experience, that don't get stuck on the little stuff. Like, let's just make decisions that really matter and, you know, get that out in paper. You know, publish a new section of the paper every night, like in, you know, just working really fast to streamline processes, really.
Yeah, great. And I heard a great thing yesterday in this conference that I was in about 80% is perfect. It doesn't have to be 100% at this time. You know, getting things to 80% and getting them out the door is better than not getting them out the door and they're beautiful, which is something my children could also look at when they're trying to get assignments done on time as well, but that's a different point. Dave Norris, I would like to turn the tables to you. Your business was turned on its head at the beginning of this. You have a few businesses, but your occupational therapy practice was really affected. We talked to you very early on in this process. Now that we're coming into the next phase, where's your attention going to be focused?
I think one of the things that I lent into, but thinking of consistency of creating great, valuable content for my community, meant that whilst things had paused or had taken a hit, there was a really consistent ongoing message about what people could be doing for themselves. So real quite of an enablement focus. And through that, as things have started to move forward into this stage and are still, you know, being very mindful of the audiences that we connect with, it meant that the phone has not stopped ringing and that there is that demand for service. It has meant that thinking a little bit more critically about how to better manage that flow with the use of digital delivery of service versus face-to-face. And in fact, many clients are now preferring to go through a digital delivery of service in the initial phase, and when we get quite focused on where we need to turn up and deliver face-to-face things. So it's meant that there's been a service development that was unexpected, but probably adding a lot more efficiency in the long run. So I'll certainly be focusing on that. And the other thing that's emerged is that with that delivery of content, some new and exciting partnership opportunities have evolved through that process too. So that's been some of the inner blessings of it all.
Great. It's so encouraging to see the positive things that have come out for so many of your organisations through this time. Things that maybe, you know, might have been ideas or nuggets in the past, but you just think, oh, I'll get to that, or I'm not quite sure how to make that happen. And then a situation like this comes along and we're all prepared to take a bit more of a risk and be a bit more vulnerable and just say, you know what, hey, I've got this idea. Can we collaborate? Well, it actually happens. And if it doesn't happen, doesn't matter, we tried. Clarissa, when you and I were talking, you were talking about that you do a lot of events with Timber Queensland. So what's something, I'm going to twist the question a little bit, what's something that you won't be doing going forward?
Well, I'm moving away from face-to-face events altogether for the next year, just on two levels. One, there's too much risk because we simply don't know what sponsors are going to be prepared to pay. We don't know what attendees, how many people they're going to be prepared to be in a room for. So I can't really plan for anything 3 months away, let alone 6 or 12. The other, you know, the bonus thing in all of this is I was already running some online events as well.
but have moved a lot more. And actually, you know, the very positive thing, focusing, you know, thinking what you started, Amy, saying we do need to focus on finance matters. I can make more profit from an online event, not having those venue costs, than I can do a face-to-face. Obviously, you do miss some things, but, you know, if I've got a certain budget to meet each year, which, you know, I do, that's going to be the way I have to go. And I've just finished this week a 4-week online training course for building professionals. The feedback was absolutely fantastic. They said, you know, they missed out on networking a little bit, but otherwise top notch. So, you know, so that we as communications professionals just have to work out how we can up the ante on networking for online events for those people to still meet those needs.
Thank you, Clarissa. I'm just looking at the time here. I'm actually going to jump now. We've had a heap of questions come in. Well, actually, from the panelists themselves had different questions for each other, and we've had some other questions come in from people who have signed up as audience. And for those of you who are joining us online, please feel free to pop questions or comments into the chat window, chat little tool on your Zoom screen. So I think for most of you, down the bottom of your Zoom, you should see the little chat button. Please feel free to pop in questions or comments in there. And if we can't get to them today, we'll definitely get to them after the call. Rachel, I'd actually like to put this first question to you. What has been your most successful strategy for connecting people while working remotely? I know that you're working a lot in more of an internal communications or project communications role at the moment. So, and maybe you and Noelle could tic-tac on this one about what's been your most successful strategy for connecting with people. And Zoe, you might have some points here too.
Yeah, sure. Look, once we got our basic frameworks into place, so the regular emails from senior managers, the intranet sites, one of the things that's really worked well is telling the good news stories. So all the things all the stories that are coming out now, lots of them, about how people have stepped up and the extra work they've had to take on and how we've succeeded. And we found that information by going down into our teams and into our networks and finding people who'll pass those messages back to us. So taking advantage of the networks and the relationships we have throughout the organisation to get people to forward to us stories of how people have been achieving amazing things, really. So.
And to build on that, I think then really working on how we do our storytelling, and a key for us has been video storytelling, because it's, you know, I guess you get that element of face-to-face. Obviously it's not a dialogue, but you're able to tell a story so much more richly when you use video storytelling. And so that's been really powerful for building morale, because not only are people seeing that the work they're doing is being noticed and it's visible at a time when they're feeling increasingly disconnected, but it also, for those who are watching it, it makes them, you know, see that this work is happening and to feel part of something that's continuing. And I guess without going into too much detail, Rachel and I are working together with a client that's a large government organisation that is intricately involved with the COVID response, and so having there's been people working all through the night. There's been large teams doing long hours, and some are at home, working at home with their families, and others are in the office every day till 1, 2, 3 a.m. And so to build morale and maintain morale has been really important during that time.
Thanks, Noelle. Thanks, Rachel. I'll keep motoring along here because the clock is beating us. Neethi, we've had a question come in. What has been the most surprising result out of this time? Perhaps you could share something from your experiences there.
For me, I think what I'm seeing and hearing everywhere is that this dream of having work-life balance is becoming a reality for more people. I think what's happening is that people are feeling more empowered to have these conversations now that they're engaging conversations about what's actually returning to work. So the whole concept worldwide, you know, work-life balance is not just something that only some can afford. It's actually more accessible now in a more equitable way.
Great point. Thank you. Which ones do I choose in the time we've got? I tell you what, this came in from a couple of different people, and Jess, maybe you could answer this one. If a similar situation were to occur again, what would you do differently? And it came in a different form of, if you had your time over in the last 3 months, is there anything that you would do differently?
I expect that we probably will have waves of this pandemic for some time, and I don't think we will return to normal life for a pretty long period of time. So I guess if I were to do things differently, it would be that we've rushed to get some technology in place to support our work from home lives, because we as an organisation didn't really have great work from home policies in place. Obviously, every single one of our employees is now working at home right around the country. So with the technology in place, I think that it would be embracing that flexibility for people more than we have in the past. We've proved that we can do our work remotely. We've proved that we can work at capacities that are probably over and above what we were doing in the office. So I think if I was going to do things differently, it would have been to have that culture already in place, so it wasn't such a shock for some people, because some people value going into the office so much that that's where their relationships are, and they put so much into work that I think it was a bit of a shock when we actually transitioned to being out of the office straight away. So I think that is where I would have focused my attention. And also on the flip side of that, if I'm thinking about our members, I probably would have been more conscious early on to listen very closely to what our members were saying. And I think we spoke last week about how some of the best revelations that we've had and some of the best pivots we've been able to make have been fully informed by the fears and the advice from our members. So that applies to anyone who's working with customers or clients. You've really got to listen closely and respond, and have that flexibility to respond to them, as well as that flexibility to get back out of the office if you need to.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Jess. We've had a question come in from the audience around executive teams. And Dan Spat, I might actually throw this question to you, because Dan's one of our design extraordinaires in the OTM team, but you've also been working on site for a very large government department. So the question, and I'd be interesting to get your perspective here, and if anyone else wants to jump in as well. Have your executive teams been more or less risk averse during the COVID pandemic? What would you say there?
Around risk averse, I think it's potentially been a little bit more reactionary and responsive rather than risk averse. So projects have been consistently running, but pivoting a little bit to suit working from home and virtual arrangements. I think it's tricky for me to be too transparent here, but I think business as usual is still continuing, and it's just different business as usual. I think it might be easier for me to throw it to somebody else. From my perspective, I'm doing design project-based work. It's less about pushing the same brand and elevating the existing brand, but more about I'm deviating from the original question, but
I think what I'm hearing there, though, is you're saying that they have been actually reacting and changing where they need to, which shows there's a level of experimentation or ability to change going on, which is probably a good thing within the confines, I guess, of the department that they are. Sorry to put you on the spot there, Dan, but it was a question that come in and you hadn't had a chance to talk yet.
Yeah, that's okay, thank you. Yeah, there's a lot of pivoting going on, and business as usual is still continuing pretty smooth.
Yeah. Look, I'm very, very mindful of the time. I'm just going to show you all this. This is the number of questions I have in front of me that people have submitted, and I haven't got it on a digital platform. I've got it all printed out. I have more and more and more. I'm not finished.
Wow, there's a lot of questions, Amy. I think we're going to have to run another Q&A session.
Absolutely. I reckon I have got my content strategy for OTM figured out for the next 8 weeks.
Can we have a piece of that?
Yeah, Nithi has just said maybe this is a penultimate session. It's an amazing session. If anyone can see, we have the lovely Jo Hassan on the line. Now, Jo, you have got the most fantastic background, because I know you are sitting on a yacht. And you have been sitting on a yacht for the last 2 to 3 months on and off. What a fantastic way to spend this time. Jo Hassan is a vitality expert. She's an author, she's a speaker, and she generally works with businesses or individual leaders on bringing some pep into their lives. So Jo has kindly agreed to come and give us, and it really will probably be like one hot pink minute now, Jo. So as we're wrapping up this call, Jo's going to give us you know, the amazing positive vibe to go out for the next 3 to 6 months. So thank you, Joe. I'll turn it over to you and let you tell your story. Oh, you're on. I'll unmute you. There you go.
Well, thank you, everybody. Let me just see that whether I can share. Oh, the screen sharing.
Okay, would you like me to share for you?
Okay, yes, please. Or it won't. It's not working.
All right, it's.
I have it. I have the presentation ready to go, but it's not.
You'll have to trust me to be your slide sorter lady.
Oh gosh. Okay. Well, I'll do a little. Okay. Well, we'll have to have really good communications going on here, Amy, because some of them are only up for a second. So, okay. So if we could go to the next one, please.
Done.
Done. Oh God. So look, I really am on a yacht called Vitality. Next slide. I've actually been spending the last 2 months in physical isolation on Moreton Bay, and I want to answer the question really now, why vitality matters. Next slide, please. So research shows, and this is before COVID-19 hit, that at least 1 in 5 Australians will experience mental illness each year, and suicide is the leading cause of death for people aged 15 to 44, and nearly 1 million Australians have experienced PTSD, and I'm actually one of those statistics. Next slide, please. And then the next one. So 22 years ago, I experienced PTSD, and I documented my recovery and resilience journey in this book. Next slide, please. And that's one of the reasons why I'm now also involved as an Are You OK community ambassador. So now back to vitality. The next slide, please. So I show up in pink and choose to live with vitality. Next slide. And I think that vitality is a little bit like champagne. So the effervescence that happens when you prise the cage off a bottle of champagne and everything bubbles out, I think that that's to me the essence of vitality. Next slide, please. And so in my recovering from my mental illness, one of the things that I discovered was that there are certain things that we need to have in our everyday life, and I've summarized these into what I call PEP, which is purpose, energy, pleasure, and profit. Next slide, please. And next one. Now you can order these any way that you like, but I see PEP as a lens through which to view living as an individual and living as a business, because businesses are made up of people. And I noted, Amy, the number one thing on your list when you did the summary of the points that you've, the questions that people have asked and the responses that these incredible panelists have given over the last couple of months are that people matter. And so when I'm talking about pepping up, I'm really honing in on the individual today, because we don't have time to go through all of them. Next slide, please. So I want to focus just for this couple of minutes on pleasure. Next slide, please. And pleasure can mean many things. Like there's a summary here: enjoyment, treat, wonderment, gratitude, bliss, affection, contentment, any other positive, pleasurable words that you can come up with. Next slide, please. And so I want to ask you the question, do you plan for pleasure every day, especially now? Next slide, please. So we always needed to look after ourselves, but I believe that we now need to look after ourselves even more than ever. Next slide, please. And so I'd like you to think just for a moment about what you used to do as a pleasurable activity before this COVID-19 shutdown, and what do you love to do now? And for some of us, the things that we love doing, like going to the gym or going out and having a relaxing breakfast with friends at the weekend, or traveling, some of us have had those things taken away from us. So we've been restrained in lockdown, some of us in our homes, some of us working extraordinarily long hours in our offices. And so I encourage everybody to actually think about still finding time to find something pleasurable to do every day. yes, we can go out and walk. I've been really fortunate in my time out on the bay. I've seen more sunrises and sunsets and double rainbows than I have ever seen in my life. And we can experience those from sometimes, you know, just by leaving our homes and you know, going for a little walk and just taking the time to get up early and be express wonder at the sunrise. Next slide, please. So for some people, if you're struggling to find something to be grateful for, or something to be, you know, to find pleasure in, then the first thing I suggest you do is change state. So if you're struggling to identify what that planned pleasure activity might be, well, play your favourite music, have a shower, go and get some sunshine on your body, or think about what you can actually be grateful for. Verbalise those things. Maybe, you know, I verbalise 3 things I'm grateful for before I get out of bed in the morning, before I go to sleep. What am I grateful for? And then another way that we can increase our vitality is to think about how we can help someone else. So if we can actually think about somebody else that we can help, well, then it's really good for our own mental state and our own pleasure. Next slide, please. So vitality travels. So if you can increase your own vitality, then that vitality will travel through to the people around you, whether they're people in your family, whether they're people in your teams, whether you have a small business or a huge organization. Maybe there are thousands of people in your organization, but the way that you show up and look after yourself really travels. And so as an energetic feeling. And I think whilst I was one of those people at the start of this, because I've always been showing up in hot pink and vibrant, I was a little bit nervous to begin with about how that would go down with my audience. And so I was just a little bit quiet to begin with, but I think I've come through this now to think, well, you know what, I think vitality is important now more than ever. And let's start talking and expressing things that we're grateful for and that we can find pleasure in. So I invite you to do that. Next slide, please. And to keep your pep up. And anybody that's on the call today, I'm very happy to gift you a copy of my book. Amy will email you a PDF copy of my book, because there might be some ideas in there to help you lift your vitality and keep pepped up, whether you as an individual or for you as a team.
Thank you so much, Jo. Now, am I still on mute? Yes, I am. No, I'm not. Thank you so very much. Is that the last slide?
Should be. Yeah.
Excellent. Really appreciate you taking the time to do that. And Jo does some amazing work with, like I said, with businesses or with individuals. So if you're thinking about anything for your teams, I'm happy to give you a shameless plug here, Jo. She does do work with you, whether you run your own business or whether you're part of a team in a bigger organisation. And when we send out the link to your book, Jo, there'll be contact details in that if anyone wants to make contact with Jo. And generally, just, you know, even chatting to Jo on the phone, I always come away feeling just that little bit of effervescence. Almost as good as having a glass of champagne. No, it's better. I'm going to, we have actually gone a few minutes over time, but not too badly. I am going to wrap up the session here. I must say that I don't know what planet we were on, thinking that we could get through all of those questions and have all of these wonderful panelists sharing their insights. So I think the level of interest and the level of information that has come out, we'll definitely look at doing something like this again in the future. We'll take a bit of time to digest everything that we've learned over the last couple of months and do a bit of a reset. We will share in a different format all of the materials, all of the insights that have come out. We'll come up with some kind of an ebook or a presentation or something, and we'll make it available on our blog, and we'll make sure that you all get the link to that. Please, if you have questions, if anyone on the line has questions, keep them coming into us. You can send things through to me or any of the OTM team. You can also email us at helpline@theotmcompany.com. As one final, I will actually put up one final slide. As a thank you to all of our panelists and the people who have contributed to this series, it's normal that you will go and buy your panelists a box of chocolates or a a bottle of wine or something to that effect. We thought we'd do a slightly different take on that. And we've asked each of our panelists to nominate their favourite local business or small business in their neighbourhood or something online, but really looking at things that are local. And these are some of the local businesses that everybody has asked us to support. So we're going to buy a voucher from each of these businesses and share it with the panellists who nominated those businesses. One of Flo, who couldn't be here today, asked us to simply make a donation to the RBWH Foundation, so we'll be doing that on his behalf. But it is a time that, you know, it's nice to be able to support those businesses who might have been doing it a bit tough around. So thank you. Thank you for all of your nominations for that. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts for everyone who has joined in and participated in as a panelist or as an audience member. And that's pretty much it from me. So everyone can wave or say goodbye or do a funny face.
Well, let's thank Amy for organising this, everybody. If we can give Amy a round of applause. Thank you very much.
Well done, Amy.
It's been really great.
Thanks, Dan, and thank you for being the original idea instigator.
It's okay, not a problem.
Thank you all. Nice to meet everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Bye.
Thanks, Amy.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, bye.
Bye.
Bye.